going to be looking at the different question types, how you can structure your answer. The specific topic that we're looking at is food and diet. So there'll be some phrases that you can learn from there. So just to go over very quickly the format of the speaking part 3, this is what they call the discussion part. You'll be asked questions on 2 different areas, but within the same topic. So there's a general topic, but the examiner will ask you questions in 2 areas on that topic. And that topic will always be related to the part 2. But the part 2 is personal, whereas the part 3 is always general, is always abstract questions. And it's between 4 and 5 minutes long, okay, a maximum of 5 minutes. So this is the script that the examiner has. They always start with this general statement. It's the same in every single test. And what we're going to do is try and sort of put ourselves in the examiner's shoes and think about the kinds of questions you might be asked. So it's very helpful as a kind of exercise to think about what kinds of questions you would tend to be asked. Remember, these are general questions, personal questions. Okay, all right, well, we'll come back. So if you look at the first picture, we're looking here, healthy food. I think we'll have a look at healthy food. So what kinds of questions could you be asked in relation to food and health? Remember, general questions that are about food, but are specifically about the health aspects of food. Okay, so it would be about ways of eating healthily. Remember, it's not personal. Okay, good, Nirmal. Do people care about their diet, and how important is it? Comparing, fast food and other types of more healthy food. Okay, remember, they're not going to ask you about what you like, because that's a part 1 question. So they're going to ask more generally, exactly, like what kind of food do people prefer to eat these days? Yeah, Nirmal, comparing the past and the present, that's very common, and how things have changed. You could talk about nutritions and things like that. Yeah, are restaurants healthy? Types of food are considered healthy in your country. Exactly, Hannah. Balanced diet. Okay, exactly. Yeah, so balanced diet, those kind of questions. Okay. Oh, sorry. What about the next question? Oh, the next picture. So we're looking at a restaurant. What general questions could they ask you about restaurants in the part 3, do you think? Okay, so they could ask about, yes, maybe related to interiors. So talking about decor, talking about hygiene, things like that. Do people tend to eat out or eat at home? That's very good. So yeah, the changing trends. Why do people like to go to a restaurant, Rosa? Exactly right. Is it popular? So a lot of it is talking about, trends in your country. Or yes, like Constantine, kind of informal versus formal dining. Next one. Okay, yes, Pooja, that's a good question as well. And Min. So the next one, we're looking at supermarket. So supermarket, shop, again, fast food versus fine dining. So what might they ask you related to food and shopping? Okay, yeah, popular items. Where does your food come from? What is the source of your food? Okay, very good. Oh, hi, ha, ha, ha. Online shopping or going out, that's quite availability, talking about health, talking about, where do you buy your food? Panic buying color. Well, that would be very relevant now. It's probably a bit too specific, but it's a good area to think about. Okay, very good. We've got a lot of things like packaging, food expiration date. Good question, Constantine. That does come up a lot. Do you prefer to go to local shops, or do you prefer to go to the big supermarkets? Problems with going to supermarkets, that kind of thing. Okay. In the last picture, we're looking at agriculture, so cultivation. What kinds of things would we... Okay, so yes, organic food, GMO, organic farming, I think that's great. The quality of the food, things like that. Acts of agriculture, that's pesticides, Ahmed, that kind of thing. So Sarah, is it better to import food or use food from your own country? Okay, so some, and chemicals, pesticides, that kind of thing. So you've really got the part 3 questions there. We're going to look at that in a bit more detail, because sometimes there is a bit of confusion between the part 1 and the part 3. Hi, Pachu. As I was mentioning before, this kind of personal question, what kind of food do you like, is very much a part 1 question. It's not the kind of question that you will get asked in part 3. And you shouldn't give a personal answer. So you shouldn't talk about yourself in part 3. You should make sure you're talking about people generally. You know, it could be your country, but it shouldn't be your personal likes and dislikes. Cleanio, you know, you could say, you know, popular foods in your country, or what kinds of foods do people use? If you put that question in the Eisenhower, in the chat, in the Q&A, I can answer it there. We're going to look at that in a moment, identifying the questions. So again, you know, how do you choose is a part 1 question. What would be a part 3 question, which would be a similar kind of question? Part 3 is opinions. We're going to look at the types of questions in a moment. Yeah, again, that's quite personal, Sheva. Yeah, so again, you know, you're just talking, same kind of question basically, but you're talking more generally rather than about you. So, you know, why do people in general go to different types of restaurants? And again, this one is about yourself. So that's a part 1 question. What would be a sort of part 3 version of the same question? How would you change that to make it a part 3 question? Susanna, yeah, so pros and cons of eating out, or for example, yeah, which is more popular? It's exactly, Kolmalpreet, that kind of question. So it's a comparison question, but not about your likes and dislikes, but about the general trends in your country. And what are we talking about here? If it says in a part 1, they could talk about how your tastes have changed. What would they talk about in part 3? Okay, good. Sky, hi Sky. More general question, but again about the trend, about the change in food taste. Oh, that's a good question, Rimgan. That's very good. Okay, again, Eisenhower, Hoover. Maybe you could change, you know, talk about how people change from young to old. That would be okay. Thank you. That's great, Eisen. And here we have a question where we're talking about the future. Yes, exactly, Gigan. That's exactly the right kind of question. It's a personal question talking about the future. So how would we make that a part 3 question? If we're looking forward to the future, what kinds of part 3 questions might they ask you related to food? Exactly. So looking forward to the future, but I don't think they would really ask that, but really they're talking about diet in the future, eating habits in the future. And the last one is, what do you think about fast food? So how would we make that a part 3 question? So pros and cons of fast food. Is fast food necessary? Effects of fast food, that kinds of thing.